Good evening and welcome to the Lower Frederick Township Board of Supervisors General Meeting. It is May 7th, 2024. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone who is listed on the roll call is present. I see our police chief is sitting in the audience instead of up here. And announcements. Township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing the minutes, and the recording is destroyed after the minutes are approved. The meeting will be posted online on the Township YouTube channel. The link can be found on the Board of Supervisors page on the Township website. It's requested that all persons wishing to speak before the board shall state their name, address, and the subject matter upon which they wish to speak for the record. In the interest of facilitating the business of the board, all persons addressing the board shall be limited to 3 minutes, unless such time is extended by the chair for good cause. Individuals are requested to remain in their seats and to respect when other persons are speaking. The Board of Supervisors will provide a reasonable opportunity to comment on any non-agenda items after all agenda items have been addressed, but prior to the adjournment of the public meeting. And we're going to start our meeting with a happy event, swearing in of our new police officer, Ms. Ashley Nark.
Marla, I just wanted to note for the public that the board held an information gathering on April 30th to discuss the non-uniform handbook and pension plan.
Yes, and for our note taker, that was not an executive session. It was information exchange only. So does it need to be in the minutes?
I think it should be.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly this evening on behalf of the members of the Lower Frederick Township Police Department. One of the definitions of family is a group of people united by certain convictions or a common affiliation. This evening, we welcome Ashley Nark to the Lower Frederick Township family. Ashley is a graduate of Bloomsburg University and the Montgomery County Police Academy. Ashley has generously volunteered her time with the Volunteer Medical Service Corps, Canine Search and Rescue, Wreaths Across America, Honor Flight, and Beyond Violence Shelter. After a competitive hiring process and her life experiences through her volunteer work, it was evident that Ashley was the best candidate for the position of police officer. The members of the police department look forward to working in conjunction with Ashley to serve the residents of the township. And at this time, I'd ask Ashley to come forward with her family to take her oath. Raise your right hand. I, Ashley Nark, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Pennsylvania. That I will discharge the duties of police officer for Lower Frederick Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, with fidelity. I further swear or affirm that I will enforce the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the ordinances of Lower Frederick Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, to the best of my ability. That I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as a police officer to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God. Congratulations, Officer Nark.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Eileen Johnson from the library. And just make sure that the green light is on.
Yes, it's on. Good evening, Eileen Johnson, the branch manager of the Perkiomen Valley Library in Schwenksville, the branch that Lower Frederick supports. Thank you very much. We are very busy at the library, and my best news, I think, is in the year 2023, our tiny little building circulated over 100,000 items from our building. And everything that goes out comes back. So we've been really busy. I thought the year before was 85,000 and pretty good. 100,000, it's incredible. So your residents are using our library, and we really appreciate that they are finding things that they want to use and keep at the library. We've got all kinds of things going. We still have our museum passes. We have hotspots you can loan, that we loan out to people for 2 weeks. It's a lot of great stuff. We've been trying to do a variety of programming. I brought with me, you guys got hot off the press. This is the summer flyer for June, July, and August. All kinds of cool things happening, including we've got some special craft programs going on. We have the dogs happening again, some gaming things happening. Just trying to keep a lot of variety happening for everybody, adults, kids. Everybody's going to be happy, hopefully, this summer. And then we also have, starting on Wednesday, tomorrow, but you can still sign up, we've got teen program. We have a grant from the county for a health program for teenagers. We've got 11 years to 19 years. 6 Wednesdays and then 1 Thursday. They're going to learn about fitness and yoga and creating healthy eating habits. And it's basically healthy for the future, something for them to build on for the future. So it's very easy to just call us, sign up, go online, and you'll have the sign up information right there. But we are trying to keep busy, trying to keep things going. Do you guys have any questions for us? I know we're going to be back at the parks for Stories in the Park. Thank you. Actually going to do Cuddy Park. No. We're doing Cobble Park. Yeah. We'll do Stories in the Park over there. So the families love coming and visiting all the parks. That's always a benefit to you guys to get people there and for us to have stories. Any questions for a library? Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, administrative actions, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve tonight. Is it okay if we approve them in one vote?
That's fine. However, I do have one change to the middle set.
February 6th?
Yes. Under the engineer report for Melbourne Hill, it was preliminary final plan approval that was granted, not conditional use approval.
Okay. Any other changes? No? All right, so I need a motion to approve the minutes from January 23rd, February 6th, and March 5th, 2024. We have one change on the February 6th minutes. Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Chuck Yiser will second.
Supervisor Halter made the motion, and Supervisor Yiser made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Treasurer's report?
Okay, so this is for through the month of April, or through April 30th of this year. Total revenue for the general fund is ended at $648,014, which is $206,896 under budget, down 10.2% from 2023. Total expenses were at $962,565, which was $128,571 under budget, up 37.5% from last year. The net income as of April 30th for the general fund is negative $314,551. The township's budgeted net income is negative $236,225. The performance is under budget by 33.1% through April. Revenue is below budget by 10.2%. The township is running below budget for most line items. Real estate transfer and real estate make up most of the difference. Our real estate difference is timing, as we received a check at the beginning of May from our tax collector. for $499,000, which covers the township real estate, fire tax, ambulance tax, and fire hydrant tax. We have received 26.9% of our 2024 budget revenue. Township expenses are on or close to budget for most line items. Expenses are below budget by 11.8%, or a negative $128,571. Expenses are under primarily for wages and legal, and over for building and public works, vehicle repair, property and liability insurance, police operating equipment, admin office technology, and chief wages. We've spent 33.9% of our 2024 budgeted expense. As far as the capital reserve, there's been no change from last month. The sewer fund, the sewer rental use charge is 1.9% over budget. Overall revenue is surpassing budget by 11.1%, or $54,768. We've received 18 sewer connection tap-in fees so far in 2024 as part of the Fulmer Road, Riverside Avenue sewer extension connections. Expenses are on or below budget for most line items. Sledge hauling, sewer line extension, and insurance bonding are over budget. The fund made a refund for dormant EDUs, which was part of this deficit. Sewer expenses are over budget by 14.8%, or $26,168. The net income is $347,000, which is $28,000 over budget. The fund has earned 44.9% of its revenue budget and spent 15.3% of its expense budget. Liquid fuels, we had multiple snow events. The fund has already surpassed its budget for interest. The fund is $5,578 over for expenses, and the 2021 F550 loan payment was made. We received our liquid fuels tax in April, and the fund has earned 103.2% of its revenue budget and spent 9.4% of its expense budget. Open space, the net income is $31,550. Total available dollars with current allocation for property conservation easement grant and county agricultural preservation is $188,656. Expenses so far have been for EIT commission and appraisals. The ARPA COVID relief fund, the total available dollars with the current allocation for the Monco 2040 grant and the Zieglerville Road drainage project is $201,333. The net income is negative $13,812. There have been invoices for the drainage project this year. Any questions?
I just have one question about the ARPA fund. So since we have a negative balance, does that mean all of the monies have been allocated to projects?
So the negative balance is based where the only income we have for this year is interest. So it'll be running on a negative, as we start paying those bills, you'll see that negative balance grow. As far as what's available, I've been allocating the two current projects. We did have more projects that are scheduled to come out of there, but since the board hasn't blessed those yet, I'm not showing that as not, I guess I'm not showing the ARPA fund as budgeted, as a budgeted difference. I know I didn't make that didn't come out
So
right.
just to sum up, we still have money in the ARPA fund that has not yet been allocated.
We allocated it for budget, but that's something the board can change if they need to.
Okay. Any other questions?
So that, just to follow up on what Supervisor Hexter said, so that's what the $201,000 is what is not earmarked for either of the two projects that you mentioned.
Yes, so and as these projects come in, so like the drainage project, we budgeted 100,000, it came in at 70,000. So those funds will free up, and that's going to be, that'll be one of those conversations probably in June or July to kind of see where we're at and, make sure we get those projects earmarked and on the as close to either being done or at least planned so that if we do have any carryover, we're still following the guidelines for that fund.
Thanks. So just for the public, we have to allocate our ARPA funds by the end of this year, and we have until the end of '26 to spend them. So that's what we're talking about. Okay, all right. Now, payment of bills. We have bills in the general fund for $205,000. Sorry, before I start, do we have any that we need to take out?
Yes, so there is a Saks Garage out of the general fund for $125 that I pulled out. The general fund balance would be $205,279.18 without that bill included.
Can you do us a favor in future? Can you pull that out?
You talking about on the agenda?
Well, somewhere, yeah. for us.
It's pulled out on the cover sheet for your bills list.
Yeah,
It's not on this list yet.
It's at the bottom.
Oh, at the very bottom, got it, okay.
yeah, I think it's just for my benefit. Thank you. Okay. All right, so I'll read the bills, and then we have a second one for Saks Garage. So general fund, $205,279.18. In the sewer fund, $103,698.19. In the sewer capital fund, $38,691.60. In liquid fuels, $20,654.53. And out of the ARPA COVID Relief Fund, $18,764.73. Do I have a motion to pay those bills?
Sure. Chuck Yeisel will make that motion.
Thank you. And I will make the second. All those in favor signify by, Supervisor Yiser made the motion and Supervisor Hexter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we have a second vote. Supervisor Sachs, I'm assuming you recuse yourself? I will recuse myself. Thank you. Do I have a motion to pay the bill to Saks Garage for $125? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Chuck Yeisel will second.
Supervisor Halter made the motion. Supervisor Yiser made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 4-0 with one recusal. All right. Next, we have our professional staff reports. Engineer?
Thank you. So the first three items on the engineer's report also appear later on the agenda, so I'll skip over those for the moment. The rest of the report is informational with some updates on current projects. The Prestige Development, or Saishaki Tract, also known as Farmview Estates, has received their NPDES permit from DEP. So I anticipate plans and agreements will be presented for signature in the not too distant future. With Melbourne Hill, the developer's engineer is working with the sewer engineer to prepare an application for a DEP permit for a low-pressure force main. They have received their sewage planning approval. Lechmar, 1467 Gravel Pike, the site work is underway. The Zieglerville Road drainage work is underway. The trees were removed, the swale graded, swale's been lined with matting, and the storm sewer was installed today. Next up is planting the trees and restoring a fence in that location, so that work is ongoing. As far as the sewer extension project on Fulmer and Riverside, Doley was out in April to address final punch list items, and the as-built survey is complete. So we will prepare the notice of termination in coming weeks to close out the NPDES project permit. On the Meng Road special study, the property site visits are nearly complete. We appreciate the cooperation from township residents, and once finalized, we will tabulate the data and continue preparation of the special study. As far as the flood barriers to protect the wastewater treatment plant from the next major hurricane, a pre-construction meeting was held for that project, and we're just awaiting submittal of shop drawings for our review and approval so that can get started. On the Sambrick subdivision, the applicant's engineer has submitted plans for installation of a trench drain across the Lot 2 driveway. And just yesterday, I received notice that DEP has approved the Goshen Hoppen Watershed Planning Study. That's even newer than this report. So that's all our updates. And other items are unchanged since the last report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
So the planning study, that's the one that we resubmitted
Yes,
after we
sir.
got comments, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep, so we just got an approval letter that just came in by email late yesterday.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Solicitor report?
Nothing.
Okay. Do we have a police report?
Yes, we do.
Oh, when did you sneak back in?
For the month of April, we had 322 police service calls. In your packet that was provided, we have two speed-related data for two areas of the township, Gravel Pike and Meng Road for southbound travel on Gravel Pike. It's a 35-mile-per-hour speed zone. The average speed was 40.45 miles per hour, or 75% effectiveness with slowing people down in that area. Second area was Gravel Pike and Zogarville Road northbound, which is also a 35-mile-per-hour speed zone. Average speed there was recorded to be 40.4 miles per hour, or 68.5% effectiveness with slowing people down. Officers attended training for the new Taser 7s, which we are currently carrying by all members of the police department. Officers also attended the training for the county record management system that went into effect yesterday. We have two large investigations in which we're working in conjunction with Montgomery County Detective Bureau. I can't disclose what those investigations are at the present time. We also participated in the Montgomery County Drug Take Back Day on April 27th. Between the people that brought medication in, as well as clearing out the drop boxes that's in the township office and our office, was just over 100 pounds of unused and unwanted medication that was able to be destroyed. And if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
I have a question about the drop box. It's my understanding you can also drop pet medication there too,
That is correct.
but it cannot be liquid.
No liquid and no any type of a syringe.
But how about like a cream?
Creams they will accept.
So tablets and creams are acceptable, liquids and syringes are not. Okay,
Correct.
great, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just, this is asking about something that was mentioned a couple meetings back, and maybe this is also a Peter question. I recall at one point you were having issues with a vendor who was supposed to transfer data over. I assume that was resolved, or is it ongoing?
I would say it's ongoing at this point. We still haven't received the data, but the solicitor can probably speak more to that.
Okay.
It's moving in the right direction, I think. So I think we got our problems resolved, and now we're just waiting for them to get us the data. Supposedly, we're in the queue, and so hopefully it's moving in the right direction. And hopefully, based on the latest email, I think we should get our data in next 5 days, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully, I can say the new management system is live, it's active, we're using it. So when we receive that data, the vendor will take that data, convert everything, so everything on the old system will then be in the new system. So it's just, unfortunately, it's a slow process, but we've been able to slowly work through it.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Fire company?
Scott Angstead, Fire Chief. Current month, we had quite a few different kind of calls, actually. Lower Frederick Township had 10, Schwenksville Borough 6, Perkiomen Township 1, Marlboro 1, Upper Frederick 3, and Upper Salford 2. We were in training activities. We did vehicle rescue training. We had training at an acquired structure, which is in Lower Salford Township. that basically somebody's going to tear down the house, we're able to get in there, we're able to smoke it up, we're able to tear it apart a little bit, open walls, and typical firefighting activity. And we had a drafting and water supply training this month. Total calls for the month was 23. Total times in service on the call was 37 hours and 39 minutes. We have a total 85 calls for the year. And out of that, total time in service for calls is 201 hours and 37 minutes. For daily or monthly activities, we had 13 hours of administrative logged. Training hours was 194. Meeting hours was 9. Total volunteer hours is 216. And the total volunteer hours between the calls and the training is 1,000 actually for the year. The one other thing, we had our cornhole tournament, and it was a big success. We had a total of 55 teams actually, and it was a very good moneymaker for us. So thank the community for their support actually. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Chief, sorry, it's me.
Yes.
2 questions. One, just being nosy. I noticed there was one fire at the same property 2 days apart on 13 Big Road.
Oh, that was actually oil, actually. It was a call for hazardous materials. And it was when we had a 4-day rain spell, actually. And there were trash cans that were put out because it was Monday, I think is the day, or Monday, I think is the day they get picked up out there. So one of the residents there noticed that there was a little bit of a slick coming down, basically. And we traced it all the way up to the top of the hill to where it had to, at the very least, came from, and we didn't see anything coming out of any of the driveways or the sump pump, there, basically. So we didn't really find anything, basically. So it doesn't take for a little bit of oil to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it could be somebody has a trash can that's got a hole in it and a little bit of oil from an oil change or something like that. And it was there 1 minute and it was kind of going the next. Once it rains real hard, it'll clear out pretty quickly, actually. So.
And then the second thing I noticed, there was one property he had 2 false alarms with. Is that a problem for you guys?
Was that Schwenksel? It was a Schwenksel one, wasn't it, I think?
Which property? Because there's been a few.
Yeah, Main Street, probably Schwenksel.
596 Main Street?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, Schwanksville, yeah.
Long story short, a business owner got shafted by their electrical engineer. And they had a faulty alarm system.
Okay.
Chris is the fire marshal for Schwenksel.
Okay.
Actually, so.
They're in the process of swapping out the wrong smoke detectors and putting heat detectors in place. They had to get plans engineered.
In general, we don't have a whole lot of fire alarms, actually, and we had a couple double ones at the Forest Lane Springmount Summit Apartments. It happens, but it's
But
not
no,
a nuisance for us.
and we have an ordinance that if someone does 3 of them in a year,
Yeah.
Okay.
If it became an issue, we would definitely address it, but honestly, I can't ever remember one person in the township, and I've been a member here for 23 years, actually, so, yeah, thank goodness. Cool.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Chris, the one on Main Street, is that the one behind Raw Replenish?
It's all the same address, but yeah.
Because we see the fire department there all the time. Okay, makes sense. All right, thank you.
And just FYI, the borough has the same ordinance, so the one offender has been cited in the borough, and the other one is working on getting out of the
Great, thank you. Ambulance?
Okay, so for the month of April, they had 13 total in Lower Frederick. Year-to-date total is 72 in the township. Their primary coverage area, they had 72. Year-to-date total is 297 calls. Mutual aid, which is outside their primary coverage area, the monthly total, or April total was 48. Year-to-date, that's at 166.
Thank you. Public Works?
All right, so for April, Public Works Department performed the following work in addition to their routine operations. They did 3 sump pump sewer inspections. They started mowing on township properties, started the fountain at CVS Village Center Park. The street sweeping throughout the township was completed. They've continued to coal patch various roads, replaced a culvert pipe across Meadow Lane, repaired a sunken area on top of a deteriorated culvert pipe along Main Street. They snored the snow plows. They repainted the white parking lines at the township building. And they performed a road repair on Rose Lane prior to the upcoming chip seal project.
They did a great job in the parking lot.
I concur.
Any questions? No? Okay. Boards and commissions, Environmental Advisory Council?
The EAC met on April 15th. The working groups gave updates to the rest of the EAC. The Green Energy Committee is working on a future Did You Know about energy audits and other energy efficiency information available from PECO. The Stormwater Committee is reaching out to the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy and hope to hold an on-site educational program to explain to residents the type, function, and most importantly, maintenance for neglected stormwater BMPs. The Outdoor Lighting Committee is continuing to gather information that they can use for outreach to residents regarding the impact of light pollution and things they can do to help mitigate it. And some EC members will be attending a workshop on this topic later this month. The Bird Down Committee participated in the Park Board Spring Fest last weekend, and I'm sure Pan will give a further update on that. And this month's Did You Know is a link to an article in Sustainability magazine highlighting this year's Earth Day theme, Planet versus Plastic. With ever increasing plastic production, worldwide there are now 1 million plastic bags produced every minute. The article highlights the problem with plastic and how consumer demand can drive changes to sustainable manufacturing. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? That is a frightening statistic.
And that's just plastic bags, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Open Space Committee?
Good evening. This is Andrew Lang reporting for the Open Space Committee. The committee met on April 10th. During this meeting, we discussed the recent pursuit of Zero North Gravel Pike to explore a fee simple purchase for open space protection. This was ultimately not successful, and in looking over the matter, we determined that the township and the committee had certainly done all they could and acted in good faith to make this happen, but it just was not something that was ultimately successful with the seller. We received an update on the Highlands Conservation Program grant that we received earlier this year with the expectation that if all goes according to plan, that the purchase and protections for this property will be established by the end of this year. And we reviewed the matter of posted signs being modified along the Stonehill Greenway and recommending that a meeting be held with representatives from the Open Space Committee, the Stonehill Greenway, and Natural Lands to make sure that these new signs are updated in a consistent manner. We then went into executive session to discuss private property matters. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Park and Recreation Board? I'm sorry, I'm out of order. Planning Commission. I mean, why don't you go ahead? We'll catch you later.
Doesn't matter too much. We had our Spring Festival last Saturday. Contrary to the weather prognostications. We hadn't ended up with a pretty wet and dreary cold day, but we still had a hearty bunch of people that stuck with us. About 50 or 60 people were there attending. The presentations were well attended, well received. We got good feedback on the information that we were providing and the activities that were provided and the value of them. Our thanks to the Public Works Group for their support, and particularly Tom Manning again for letting us use his trailer, because it's a godsend. We have all of our loot. We have to move over there and back. We have our first book club offering on Saturday, June 1st at 10:30 at Gutty Park. The book club will be discussing the berry pickers. We'll have free snacks. You can still sign up, so that's available. And also, if anyone has any ideas of books for future book club readings, please make a suggestions to Becky Strawbridge. Working on our Coble Park renovation project, the DCED Greenway grant application. My thanks to Greg Reich for taking the helm on compiling the application data. Katie and I, as well as our engineer has reviewed the information. We've put Carol's recommendations and her changes into the application for final review, and it is complete, and we submitted it this morning to Jason for signature and needs to be submitted by the end of the month. Other piece of the Coble Park project is the questionnaire, which we have been working on. Katie's been finalizing the draft with comments from the park board from our review and input. Next step will be submittal to the Board of Supervisors for review and comment, probably within maybe 2-3 weeks. The objective of that is obviously to post it up on the township website to gather public comment on the project itself. And also, there was a great deal of interest when I first introduced it on the type of equipment we were looking at putting in the playground. So there's opportunity to look at that and comment on that, to pull that in. It's early, we're way far away from doing the playground, but the objective here is to gather this information now. It allows us to plan and costs going forward as we move through the project. It is a phased project over many years, so now's the time to gather the background data so we can work with it. And that's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, in spite of the weather, it was a great event. It just gets better every year. So thanks to the park board and I think the EAC and all the other folks, the extension service and the, the studio of the everybody who contributed to making it a success. And maybe next year the weather will be better. Any questions for the park board?
Other than also to thank Noah for providing those really nice tents.
The donation of the tents by Noah and Take It Outdoors was essential to our survival Saturday.
Yep.
Thank you. And sorry, Planning Commission, I skipped over you.
Phil Smith, the recording secretary of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission met on April the 18th. We had a rather short meeting, but there were two subjects worth noting. First of which is a continuance of the discussion about the Delphi to Schwanksville pedestrian connection. For those unfamiliar with that, the area between Delphi Village, we'll say at Moshe's, to Schwanksville Borough is an area that we'll call it unofficially has been a conduit for people to travel to and from. And we would like to see that improved to a more safe and walkable conduit. Eventually, the county has a plan for a trail going out to the west end of the county called the Sunrise Trail, but we recognize that that trail will be years before it's realized. So we would like to see the conduit between Delphi Village and Schwanksville Borough opened and made passable for pedestrians to use in a safe manner. The Schwanksville Borough Council and administration of Schwanksville is on board with this, and we've been collaborating with them. The county has requested a formal recognition of our interest in trying to pursue this further. On March the 21st, we drafted a letter which we served to the Board of Supervisors, which we would like to see the Board of Supervisors either put it into their own words or send our letter on to the county expressing an interest to meet with them to further the discussions necessary to accomplish this goal. So that is a request that we are making of the Board of Supervisors for you to entertain and hopefully approve. The other issue which we addressed that evening was an update of our connections map. In 2015, we revised a rather old document. I think it was approved in 2006. So it had an update or refreshing in 2015, and it's a map of the entire township, recognizing areas that, you know, could benefit by having pedestrian connections, sidewalks, pathways, any kind of means in which to get people to be able to move without having to hop in their car all the time. And we are in the process of having our community planner, John Mikolos, revise the map, and then we will be having him serve that to the Board of Supervisors for their review. So we entertained a number of changes which we'd like to see, and recommended John improve the existing map to those recommended improvements, with the ultimate goal to have that map become not an official map, but a map that we can use for planning and discussion purposes when it becomes necessary. And that was the extent of our evening's meeting. Are there any questions?
Thank you. So when will we be discussing this letter? At our work session or at some future meeting?
It's on tonight's agenda.
On tonight's agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, but not, all right, thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That leads us to the business portion of our meeting, and first up is a waiver request from Arcadia Station. It's your turn, sir. We put you on first.
Good evening, Christopher Mahoney, Associate General Counsel here for KTMT1 LP. As you mentioned, we're here for a waiver request. We have the development Arcadia Station over on Zieglerville Road. My understanding, even though I have not been involved very long, has this been quite an ongoing project. However, we're nearing the conclusion. We have our notice of termination for the NPDS permit. As-built have been approved, and most things on the punch list from the engineer have been completed, except for some trees, I believe some sidewalk that was damaged by a contractor, and possibly some pavement that I'm not sure about. But one of the other last things on the punch list is, I'm sure as you've probably driven down the road, there is the rock that sticks out next to Zieglerville Road. Unfortunately, it does predate our development, but is not graded at 3:1, which is what is covered by the land development ordinance. So under section 14520A, we're coming to the Board of Supervisors for a waiver of that requirement, because otherwise attempting to remove or otherwise, I don't know what we would do to this rock that does pre-exist. We were able to apparently at some point shave it back a little bit, I'm told, by some of our site individuals. It's thankfully not in the roadway. It's thankfully not in the walking path, but any further adjustments to it would obviously be impactful to both the telephone poles, the trees, and the neighbors. So that's why we're coming before the board asking for that waiver. I did submit the correspondence and the photographs. I have copies additionally as well if anybody needs to see them, but that is what we are requesting.
Do you have anything additional to add, Carol?
Thank you. So the applicant is actually requesting a waiver of two sections of code. It's 77-4D, excavations and fills, which says cut and fill slopes shall not be steeper than 3:1 unless stabilized by a retaining wall or cribbing, except as approved by the board when handled under special conditions. And also your subdivision ordinance, section 145-38F, which says finished grade shall not contain slopes in excess of 3:1 or 33% incline, except where pre-existing. So before the applicant's project started, that rock was right up against the road. As a matter of fact, the township paid Sachs and Sons to cut it back somewhat because it was a hazard. The applicant's work did cut it back much further. so it doesn't present that kind of hazard anymore. It stands steeper than 3 to 1 in places, which of course is not to code, and why the applicant's asking for a waiver. I do believe the current condition to be a significant improvement over the pre-development conditions, and I consider the slope stability to be acceptable. My initial concern was actually regarding problems with mowing and maintenance, and that concern has diminished as the landscapers have kept this area suitably trimmed for years now. So as the township engineer, I offer no objection to the applicant's request for a waiver.
Thank you. And it looks like it's far enough away from the road. There's no line of sight issue either. So I don't have any issues. What does the rest of the board say?
Same, I don't have any issue with it.
I don't have an issue.
I don't have an issue with it.
So it sounds like we're good. We need to have a vote. All right, so the motion would be that we move to accept the waiver request per the letter from KTMT dated March 29, 2024, on behalf of Arcadia Station at Perkiomen subdivision. Is that great? Okay, who would like to make that motion?
Chuck Geiser will make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so Supervisor Yeiser made the motion, Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, you're all set.
Great, thank you all very much.
Just one quick question. How are those trees going? Because I noticed a lot of the trees in that development have died, and some of them, replacements have also died. Do you have someone choosing and planting them who is doing a better job?
The short answer to your question is I'm the new guy, so I'm not exactly completely up to date on the project. But I know from talking to one of our site individuals yesterday, there are additional trees going in. I couldn't tell you exactly where. Obviously, if you have a specific question and if anybody wants to ask us, we're certainly happy to answer it. I just don't have the information offhand.
No, it just seems to have been a chronic issue, that it seemed that it would have been less expensive and more efficient to have done it right the first time.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Thank you very much.
you want to take stuff back? My question is, when are you going to finish?
Hopefully as soon as possible.
When are you going to finish?
I'll take the question back and we'll
Please.
provide an answer.
Thank you.
Absolutely, sure. Great, thank you so much.
All right, next item is approval and acceptance of the Smith Trail easement. Is that you, Peter?
It can be. So as the board well knows, the Smiths put forth or offered to the township a trail easement over a portion of property they recently acquired. The township has authorized my office to work with the Smiths on this, which work has culminated in a preparation of a written easement that the Smiths have signed. And this easement is now before you for the board's approval and signature. This is an easement that I originally wrote. The Smiths made some changes to it. We came to an agreement as to the language, and it's good to go.
Okay, any questions from the board? Are we ready to vote on this? Would someone like to make the motion?
Sure. I move to accept the trail easement granted by Philip Smith and Gail Gosser Smith on the property located at 3 South Ryanford Road, and further authorize the chair to sign the agreement on behalf of the board.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Byrd made the motion. Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Great. I know it's been a long time ongoing. All right, next item is the Board of Assessment Appeal, 129 Yerger Road.
This would be me also.
Okay.
So, occasionally, as the township solicitor, I'm made aware of tax appeals, either filed by a property owner or at times filed by the county or the school district. I generally don't get heavily involved in these because, to be honest, it's not worth the township's money. You'd spend a lot more money on me than you're gonna gain or lose. However, I do monitor the situation. I enter my appearance so I know what's going on. And in situations like this, when a settlement occurs, they can reach out to me and we're ready to sign. So what we have here is we had a case involving the Solomon Foundation, which actually owns property that what's the camp? I'm sorry, Camp Hope is located on. There has been some question on whether or not this property is eligible for tax exemption as a charity. It's a little confusing because there's two parcels involved here, but one has the exemption and there's no question to it, and it's only the other one that's been involved in this lawsuit. After the lawsuit's been going on for quite a while, we finally reached a settlement agreement that was put forth by the county and the school. I believe the county, the school district has signed on. Actually, all the parties I believe has signed on. We are the last ones. There's no reason. There is an impact to us because they are getting the charitable exemption, but there really is no reason financially for us to oppose this. And it makes no sense for us to go alone, fight this on our own when the township, when the school district and the county have already settled it.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yes. I thought I read somewhere that the settlement involved a 50%. I guess where I have a little bit of a rub here is if there's a fire there, if there's a need for first responders, they're still using township services. You could make the argument from the school district that they're not sending kids to the school, but I'm not, and I thought I had read somewhere there was a 50%, maybe that was in your memo?
No, that's what they're agreeing to, yes.
Okay, so that's a little better than just saying nothing, right? Because they were looking to sell or subdivide one of those parcels a few years ago. They came in here asking questions about what they could do. That's when maybe they were more hard up for money, but that was the parcel, the parcel that has the exemption, which is on the opposite side of Yerger Road from the creek. The parcel that doesn't have the exemption is where most of their main buildings are, which is on the creek side of Yerger Road and actually straddles the creek. So if they're still paying 50%, I think that's a fair compromise. Because I mean, it's a busy place in the summer, and we do respond.
Yeah, it's this township is lucky in that you don't have a lot of these sorts of institutional uses. We do represent townships. Radnor is probably the worst that I can think of. They have Villanova, they have several private schools, they have several other colleges, and it's a huge problem because yes, they use the services, but they're not paying taxes. They, under state law, they're allowed to get that tax break, and that's always a major problem with municipalities that have these large nonprofit institutions. There are, sometimes you're able to get what's called a pilot, which is basically taxes in lieu or payments in lieu of taxes, but that's usually with much larger organizations than something like the camp.
Do we owe them any tax money? Do we need to? I know we refunded them money. What was that, a year or two ago? I seem to remember. do we have to refund any money under this, or are we good?
As a result of the exemption granted by the stipulation, refunds for overpayment of taxes for tax years 2023 and 2024 from Montgomery County and Lower Frederick Township, and for tax year 2023 for the school district may be due and owing to the foundation, blah, 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 blah. So I think that's not yet determined.
Okay. All right.
Is the board ready to vote?
Sure.
Would someone like to make the motion?
Chuck Geiser will make the motion. So I'd move to authorize the township solicitor to sign the stipulation of settlement on behalf of the township for the case involving Solomon Foundation, the Montgomery County Board of Assessment Appeals et al. For parcels 38000008530009 and 380002815009.
Thank you, and I will make the second. So Supervisor Yiser made the motion, Supervisor Hexter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next item is to authorize advertisement of Zieglerville Road base repair.
I think that one comes to me. I understand there have been some questions and concerns floating about this project, so I somewhat expanded my report on this. So Zieglerville Road is nearly a mile long. It's a collector road in your township that serves the residents of Springmount. The road has not been repaved, resurfaced, or chip sealed in over 25 years. With our regular road inspections and planning, this road was always set aside to be repaired and repaved after construction of Arcadia was done. So you might recall the pavement maintenance chart that has been displayed when we talk about road conditions. Zieglerville Road is that red line that quickly falls on the chart where the road is not sealed or maintained.
Hold on a sec.
Yes.
Do we have something we can put up?
I'm sorry, what are you looking for? The road maintenance chart, or? I'm not sure what you're looking for.
What would you like to put up,
You
Marla?
referred to something that had a red line on it?
I was referring to the road maintenance chart that has been put up over and over about how if you have a road in good condition
Okay.
at the beginning, I thought you guys were so sick of seeing that chart.
Okay.
It's
All
my
right, yeah, we
favorite
probably
chart.
don't need to see that, thanks.
So we now have extensive base repair needed to stabilize the road bed before a surface course can be placed. So as we discussed at the work session on March 26th, the base repair is extensive. Core samples were taken of the road, and we found 3 to 4 inches of asphalt on top of 2A aggregate base. At that point, we evaluated the advantages and disadvantages of cold-in-place recycling compared to pavement base repairs. With road recycling, you mill 5 inches of material, you blend it with an emulsion, and you place it back on the road. That must then cure without significant traffic loading for more than a week before the leveling course and the wearing course are placed. So traffic detours would have been required. The finished pavement surface, after we put on the leveling course and the wearing course, would end up about 3 inches higher, so we would need to adjust utilities, need to do grade adjustments at driveways and intersections. This would all have to be performed the same year so that you had a good road to drive on. With the base repairs, what happens is 5 inches of material are milled and removed, 5 inches of base course asphalt are placed, and then the edges are sealed. The following year, the township would surface mill the top 1.5 inches and then place new pavement wearing course on the road. So this spreads the costs over 2 years. As a result of that evaluation, the base repair option was selected, and the bid documents are complete for pavement base repairs on Zieglerville Road. The package was also set to include optional quantities for additional base repair work in selected locations of pavement failure on Main Street and Springmount Road. When bids are received, the board will have the options to award the base bid with those optional repairs on Springmount Road and Main Street, or reject all bids and rebid road repairs next year. Now, also at the March workshop meeting, questions were raised about saving the materials that were excavated from the road for base repairs. So these are millings. They're also known as RAP, for recycled asphalt paving. And RAP is not considered clean fill by DEP. So the state agencies, both DEP and PennDOT, prefer the material be returned to the asphalt plant for recycling into asphalt projects. The federal government is actually strongly encouraging the addition of recycled material to asphalt products. So if it is stored, it needs to be managed in a way that complies with environmental laws and prevents wind and water dispersal. If it's not properly contained, stormwater runoff from RAP can carry lead, petroleum products, and other contaminants into the nearby soils or waters. DEP solid waste regulations do not permit storage of that RAP for more than 2 construction seasons. And the township does not have a suitable storage location for RAP materials, nor do they have current plans to utilize this material. So the contractor will be responsible under this bid to remove the material and properly manage it, which will likely be by returning it to the asphalt plant. So tonight, we're looking for approval to advertise this project for bidding. She's ready to go.
Thank you, Carol. Any questions from the board?
I do have one question. The language that you have on the 95-page bid, is that boilerplate, or is that specific to this job?
A little bit of both. So it's very similar to the language. A lot of the template was the language that was developed with your solicitor in earlier bid projects, and then we modify aspects of it to be specific to this project.
So because I found that we're calling for an NPDES permit in here? Are we getting an NPDES permit?
No, we are not. So if you want to point that out to me after the meeting, I'll make sure. that
Page
gets
12,
correct.
number 25.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, so I'm just, again, the project description that you have, number 2 in your thing, you're gonna, in certain areas, looks like you're gonna saw cut or mill, right? In certain areas, and remove, 5 inches of that material, and then that is what's going back to the asphalt plant, or we'll put it this way, that's what the contractor is responsible for
Right.
handling appropriately. Okay. And again, and then you're gonna and then I guess once they do that, they evaluate what they've uncovered and decide what the appropriate remedial action is.
That's correct. So part of the pavement base repair is after you remove that 5 inches of material, you make sure that what is underneath is stable. Most often it is, but if it's not, then you would remove the unstable material and replace it with stone.
So but we're asking whoever bids on this, is there similar to like when we had the rock clause, are there contingencies saying that if the thing is in worse shape than we think it is, can they come back and ask for more money, or how does that work?
So we have a unit price bid item for doing that work to stabilize the sub-base if there is a problem. So if it went more than 25, if we started to go more than 25% over, if our project cost started to escalate, then we could come back for a change order if we had to do that.
Okay.
But you certainly don't want to put new pavement on top of something that's not stable. It's got to be done right, or it's not worth it, or you're throwing money away.
And then the plan is it says here, the last thing would be to place 5 inches of compacted 25 millimeter base course, right? So
That's
that's what
correct.
they're gonna use to fill the holes.
Yes.
and then it'll stay that way until we come back and remill the whole thing,
Then we're gonna mill 1.5 inches off the whole road and
And
then
then
put a wearing course on
do a
top.
wearing course.
Yep.
So if for some reason things ended up being more expensive than we thought, I mean, could we live with the way it is after they've done the base repair for an extra year or so? Or how does that, I assume the road's gonna be reasonably drivable after they do the base repair, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
The problem, the only concern is the 25 millimeter base course is more open than a wearing course.
Sure, yeah.
You've got more voids in it. So you don't want to go too long without covering that over. If you weren't going to put a wearing course on it soon, we'd at least want to talk about some sort of a sealant.
yeah, otherwise I guess the water gets in there and
Right.
freezes and, yeah. And
Go with a 19 millimeter.
go with a smaller diameter.
19 millimeter is like a modified base.
Yeah.
It has more fines in it than the 25 millimeter.
And I agree with you, Terry, and that was my initial thought. I went with the 25 because I was going with PennDOT spec, which is the 25, so.
A lot
I
of
was-
them
I
are
was-
using 19.
Yeah.
The next thing is, if you think you're gonna go a little longer than a year or two, you could chip it, tar and chip it,
Yeah.
seal it. That's what they're starting to do now. Townships are milling out, patching, then they're coming in and tar and chipping over. That'll last you as long as you want it to last, till you're ready to do something with it, which is way cheaper than topping it.
Okay.
So once we get the base repair done, you should have some options to talk about, sure.
And last but not least, so we found out very recently that our 537 plan's been approved, which I believe calls for sewering that area via low-pressure system, which I'm assuming can be installed in a minimally invasive way. Whenever that happens, I don't know, what are we predicting, 10 years down the road or something like that, so that we're not going to be disturbing this road in any major way?
Well, that's going to be a question of designing that system. You know, if, it's not designed at this point.
Right.
But it could go down, you know, there's a possibility it could go down one side of the road and then directional bore to the other for connections.
Right.
So that you don't pick up the pavement. You know, that's a possibility. You know, worst case scenario, if you do trench in the road, I would still respectfully submit that that road's in fairly bad condition for all the years of neglect. And I don't think you want to wait another 10 years to get your base repairs done.
Okay.
We're going to have the board finish their discussion, then I'll take questions from the public. Any other questions from the board?
I guess the last one that I would have, it came up the last time we had the conversation, is where's the rest of the money coming from? If we have $150,000 budgeted out of the liquid fuels, what are our options to pay the remainder of that?
It could be a combination of more liquid fuels, it could be ARPA or the general fund. Because the liquid fuels, we're not mandated to budget that. We do budget, but it's not a requirement that it has to be budgeted. So if we needed to use more liquid fuels, we could do that. Now that's going to potentially change next year and beyond. But those would be probably the three options right now, if we needed additional funding.
Anything else from the board? No, okay. Go ahead. Oh, can you come to the podium, please, so we can hear you?
Is there any consideration in this?
Sorry, can you state your name and address for the record?
Dave Bartlett, Schwank Road. Is there any consideration in this for peripheral drainage improvements? I don't think that makes sense.
Does There's a button, Dave, there's a button on the base. It's all right.
Is there any? Hey. Hey. Is there any consideration in this for peripheral drainage issues, improvements in it? There's no doubt if it's 25 years old, he probably, there's probably galvanized pipe, and most of that's pretty much gone by now.
So at this point in time, there's no storm sewer work proposed with this project. The only drainage work is actually an advanced project that's underway right now for the drainage problem that occurs opposite the Schwenksville Borough Authority well, where we've got a water problem. That project's underway right now, but there's no additional drainage work scheduled at this point.
Bob? Is that microphone working?
He's got the bigger one up there.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so we're waiting for this to come up, talking to a lot of different people. Hopefully some people might have emailed Jason, I'm not sure. But anyway, you guys always talk about getting the bids out in the winter time, getting a better price in the spring, which is always the case. Okay, now we're in the heat of the season. I'm talking to contractors that are busy. They're upping their prices to take additional work. Obviously, if you put this out to bid and you put it out in phases, it's going to cost more to do it. I was talking to our tax collector last night. He asked, why isn't this being done in one total project? I said, no, obviously it's the price. If you add the 2 years that you guys had previously discussed at the last meeting, I think it was 460,000 plus, so let's just call it 500 for that part of the reason. So that hasn't been discussed either. You don't even know really what you have for next year's budget to take care of next year's costs. Okay. You also have the point, if you do get it out by now, it's probably not going to get awarded until August, September, and then you want to get the work done by November. That's going to be a rush. So you also have the possibility with the oil prices going up. When contractors quoted, Carol should be able to back me up on this, they're given quotes from the blacktop plant, and there's the asphalt index. And if that asphalt index, by the time they go to pull the material out, if that asphalt index changes, then they get a change order for that material. Now, the last meeting I asked you guys about putting this out to bid, putting it out for grants. Let's look for grants. Let's hold off this year. Let's take care of the worst areas that have to be done. Let's look at the sanitary sewer line and putting that in possibly. Let's look at some traffic calming, some handicap ramps at Goshen, whatever we have to do to combine it so that a grant can be performed. I think it's a little foolish to go at this point in time to advertise the bid. Carol's already got her plan done. If she needed to add the drainage, any additional drainage, by the way, there is inlets at the intersection, just in from the intersection at Schwenk Road, on the east side, and or the south side, whatever you want to call it. And then up at Goshen, there's an inlet there that could be tied in and brought out to Zieglerville, catch some of the water that's already going to go down to the new inlets that Carol's just talking about, that Saxon Sons is putting in. So there's a lot of concerns here. We raised taxes last year to gain $100,000. This is a $500,000 project over 2 years. Everybody I talk to doesn't want a tax increase. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to. So what I'm asking the board to do at this point in time is to do nothing at this point. Get ready to prepare the bid. If you're going to go that way, prepare it this winter and do the whole thing all at one time. One of the reasons why I say that is Carol's talking about coming in right now. If you did it in phases, you're going to mill out 5 inches. You're going to put 5 inches back in. Usually it's done in 2 lifts. Okay? So if you put that 5 inches in, next year you're going to come back and you're going to mill 1.5 inches off of it. So you're taking another 1.5 inches off. You do the project as a whole, you mill the whole road 1.5 inches. Then you open it up and you see where your real damages are, if it has to be expanded. And a lot of times, and Carol said it, and core samples show it, that the road, it doesn't have what it needs to have. It's not structurally capable. The thicker the asphalt, and Carol has the chart from PennDOT that tells you so many inches, either so much for weight bearing and everything. Okay, so with all these things said, if you mill that inch and a half off next year, you're losing an inch and a half of the new material. If you mill it and do it as one project, that inch and a half comes off, you mill down 5 more inches to take out that material. That's where you put your base repairs back in, and then you do your leveling course and whatnot. The other thing that I had brought up, and Carol said at the last meeting, that because of the crosswalk put in, it would have to be profile. And, you know, obviously some people in the meeting might not know what that meant, except for Mr. Sachs and a few others. So that's gonna have to be milled out. The milling machine is set, it can pick up grades differently. A lot of passes are gonna have to go through there. There's gonna be extensive work to get that thing right and get it done right. Okay, Mr. Sachs gave us a lowdown on it when he did all his work before. So I think there's a lot more to rush into and think about. You know, you haven't even seen the bid package, or if you have, I don't know if you have or not. I haven't seen it. One of the concerns I would have in the last bid that went out to Dolly, if they didn't do something or they were delayed, there was only a $50 charge. That charge should be $1,000 to $1,500. So if that's still in the bid documents, that's something that needs to be looked at. So what I would ask you, if you hold off right now, you figure out whether grants are possible, you do whatever has to be done. If that doesn't work, then you do the whole thing soup to nuts. You have to wait another year, so be it. I mean, 12, 15 years ago, PK Moyer came in and did a 5-foot wide by 500-foot trench, whatever it is. They milled it out to a certain depth. They filled it back in with blacktop with 2 lifts. We've been driving on it ever since. It's been a godsend. The only problem we've had is by putting that thick asphalt in there, the water drainage can't get underneath that, so it's going around it, and that's where the eruption happened. That's where Saxon Sons went out 2 or 3 years ago, did a 5-foot by 40 patch. That kept leading the water out. We have potholes from there all the way down to the intersection of 29. You also have the bridge to break out. You're not going to want to run the milling machine over top of the bridge, so you're going to have to peel all that out. When you get to the milling situation, I appreciate we don't have a place to take it. Once you mill and you incorporate the stone underneath of it, the blacktop plants don't want it back. And in most cases, the blacktop plants want virgin millings. They don't want 25-year-old dried out, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to repeat what Carol has said, and we've said before, is we're under no obligation to accept the bid. We're trying to get a price and see what this could cost us. Hang on, hang on. Are you going to say something new, or are you going to repeat something you've already said?
No, I'm going to chime in with what you just said there. I understand we don't have to accept the bids, but you don't use contractors to get a bid price. You have an engineer that formulates the bid, gives you the idea of all the scope. As she said, she has a unit price, so it could go higher, it could go lower, depending on what happens. And, you know, it's not right to contractors to have a half a dozen or a dozen contractors bid on something so that we can figure out what it is. That's work that the township needs to do on their stuff.
Thank you.
Sometimes when you're putting it out to get it. So, one thing I did forget to mention is it possible to put out the equipment bid with prevailing wage rates? If the equipment bid's put out with prevailing wage rates, that takes care of that. That also allows us to buy the materials from CoStars at a discounted rate. Because anything you put in this bid package, first of all, the contractor can't get the price we get from CoStars. On top of that, the contractor's not going to give it, if it's $50 a ton, they're going to charge you $65 a ton. So there's a markup on the material on top of that. Thank you.
Can you put the Zoom screen back up, Jason? Okay. All right, what would the board like to do? Oh, sorry, go ahead. You have a soft voice, maybe come a little closer to the microphone or speak up or both. Thank you. Okay, is the board ready to proceed?
Just question on the timing. So it's been brought up a few times about when we put these out to bid, and we've heard this in other projects. We've also heard for many years the condition of this road from some people who spoke tonight, that it needs to be repaired kind of right away. So we all know the road's in bad condition, but what, from a timing standpoint, to Carol maybe, is there a benefit of waiting over the winter? Is it too late? We need to do something yesterday? Like, what's the timing? I mean, I think from putting it out for authorization to bid, I understand we don't have to act on it, but at the same time, we don't want to pay to put it out to bid twice in the hopes to get better bids next year, especially if oil prices go up over the winter. So what would you say is our gamble on this if we wait?
So if you saw in the advertisement, which was at the front of that document, We are actually on a tight schedule here to award the bid at your June meeting. So we would be, if you authorize advertisement, Becky's already got the invitation to bid to send to the newspaper, and we've got a tight timeline to actually be able to award this at your June meeting. So we're not necessarily talking about awarding in July and August and not doing this work till the fall. We're getting this out as soon as possible. Yes, I always recommend that the earlier we get it out, the better. This is the timeline we've got right now. And it's really up to you as supervisors, whether you want to continue with the condition of the road as it is for another year and just keep pothole patching with cold patch for another year, or if you want to take a go at this. She's ready to go.
So what would be the potential cost saving, all things being equal, to put the bid out in November or October instead of tomorrow?
So the ideal time to put out a project like this is more February, March, as people are putting their schedules together. So that's the ideal time to bid these kinds of things, because contractors are theoretically a little hungrier then. Of course, everybody's doing that now, so I don't know if that helps. But you know, here we are, we're in the beginning of May right now. So this would be going out on pen bid this week if the board authorizes it, and you would be awarding it in June. So you're not that far behind on the timeline. But, you know, yeah, I always think we get the best possible prices the earlier we go. I guess the balance of that is if we don't go this year and wait to put it out early in the year next year, you're going to be spending money on cold patch and labor for your public works to keep patching these potholes and patching these potholes until you're ready to fix them right.
What would the board like to do? Hang on a sec. I mean, there's a couple things we can do. We can not make a decision today. We can revisit this later. We can make a decision today to delay. We can make a decision today to authorize the bid advertisement.
The one thing to also keep in mind is, as you pointed out earlier, if we intend to use ARPA money for this, the bids would have to go out and be most likely awarded by the end of this year. Because otherwise, it's too late as far as ARPA is concerned.
Well, the three accounts that Jason indicated were what? The general fund, liquid fuels, and something else. Is ARPA?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we delay this, then we are really putting ourselves in a bind in terms of kicking this another month, right? Schedule-wise. I'm looking at our engineer, but I'm also looking at Terry Sack, because this is your business, so.
Well, I'll give you an example. Pottstown put a bid out last year. We wouldn't bid on it because they had a time limit, and Glasgow got it. Glasgow never finished the job in the time limit of the weather.
They didn't get it done before November.
It was a late bid.
Yeah.
Okay. Pottstown's putting out a big bid now, overlaying, and it's late. It's just, you know, I don't know what else to say. I'm not trying to, you know, go against Carol or nothing here. It's just that you got to be careful with that. Very careful. It gets tough here now at this time. And like she's saying, you got to do it now or you got to push it off.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was asking, is that if we don't have the luxury of waiting another month to decide on this.
Let's put it this way. If you do bid it out and you get the bids and you don't like them, just reject them all. It's happened in all kinds of townships. reject them. Rebid it another time.
Yeah, but I think the ability to be able to use ARPA funding is compelling.
Well, you had a whole bunch of things you were gonna use it on, so you use it on
Yeah.
something else. I mean, I'm just, you had a list of it, so.
Yeah, well, infrastructure,
You won't use it up.
infrastructure is expensive.
There's, there's so many ways you can look at this. You can save money if you know, do it different ways, like just come out of Upper Hanover. We milled, repaired, and they're just gonna tar and chip it. That's what they're gonna do. And we use 19 millimeter up there.
And the residents just add something. You've just done all that, so Diane Jern speaking again, just done that great swale work up the road. That is a big place where the water has been undermining the road. I think that it would be nice to just cold patch. I mean, we live on that road, so we know what it sounds like, and we know what it looks like, and we know how, if you could just cold patch that area and see what a great job your swale is going to do, to just, because what I heard Terry say is that you're already late. It already is late. So, thank you for letting me make an understanding.
Like I said, you can still bid it, and, you know,
Yes,
if
you
you
do.
feel as if it's too much money, then reject them and look at another angle.
Dave Bartlett, Schwank Road again. At the risk of being dead horse, in my experience, which is blacktop since like 1984, whenever, if you're intending to go down the road, mill and pave, and no matter what you compact it with, no matter how hard you compact, if there's an underlying issue, it's coming back, no matter what you do. So if there's an issue there now, in my experience, it's probably water. You should probably think about that first. If you go to someplace like Italy, all the roads there, there's no problems. They've been there 5,000 years because they took care of the water issue.
Bob Burns, Zieglerville Road. So one thing I didn't mention is when the milling operation happens, whether it happens on top of the 1.5 inch removal or with the 1.5 inch removal, the milling machine's gonna load the truck. The truck's gonna be close to 80,000 pounds. The road already can't withstand that. So some of the times, the trucks are gonna be in the cut where it's being built out. And when they're coming out of the cut, there's gonna be some places where there's gonna be damage done. So, you know, it's nice that Carol and Tommy and the boys went out and painted everything. It's not a true representation until you take the 1.5 inch off. You can't really tell what's underneath there. You could have separation between the two paving layers from 25 years ago, and maybe it's just the top course that's causing the problem. But, and we all know, our houses are built on a foundation. If the foundation's no good, just like Dave said, it's no good. So, you know, the patches, some of them are connected, some of them aren't, some of them are this wide, some of them are that wide. You know, there's areas that will not be dug out. They'll still be in the travel lane. So I don't think I saw any, Carol, there wasn't anything in the oversized decel lane or whatever the hell they're called. No patches that you had in, correct? Right. So, it's just something to think about. I mean, I do agree, like you said, you could go ahead and get contractors to bid this work for you. But if you reject the bids, you know, more than likely because it's gonna be too high, those contractors might not come back. And to be honest with you, right now, the good contractors are loaded up with work. I was hoping there would be a couple of them here tonight. Unfortunately, George is out of town, and Scott LaCava is coming from Tacony Bridge, so they're not here to do their expertise. So I think between me and Dave and Terry, we pretty much have that covered. So, if you have any other questions for me, please ask.
Thank you.
No, I just, my thinking, as Terry said, if we don't like the bids, we can reject them. Interestingly enough, I did see Josh last night. He walked right by me. He didn't ask me that question. He asked you, and I'm not sure how he asked you because you were standing next to me, so you must have talked to him at a different time. Okay. 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 I know, you caught me. So part of this whole thing is if you were to bid it in one shot, I mean, what we will know after going through this base repair is that we have something that we can now work with, whether we decide to chip, mill and redo it, or perhaps what Terry suggested, just, oil it and stone it. But at least we'll know what we have, and we've built something that's solid. And I'm not looking for a rebuttal at this point. I think you've had enough time. All right?
But we're not going to get into a tit for tat. If you have some,
My question is, how much are you planning on budgeting for next year? I mean, I don't even know if Jason came up with 150 for this year, so I'm just curious.
if it sounds a bit argumentative, if you have a new question,
Right.
please come forward.
I think, to me, we don't really know exactly what we're dealing with, right? And we will by going through this process and then have a better idea how to deal with finishing that road. And so lumping it all into one, I'm not sure whether that's really a smart move either. So I'm of the opinion, that we can bid this out, and if things don't look right, we can decide not to accept those bids.
Let's not beat this thing to death, but, like I said, if you really want to, bid it out, and if you don't like the prices, just reject them, and then you can look down the road what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'll make the motion and we're ready to go forward with it. In the meantime, if Terry and Carol can talk about what's happening in New Hanover, if there's new strategies, let's have the conversation on the side. Are we ready?
And I will second that motion. So Supervisor Byrd made the motion to authorize advertising to bid the 2024 base repair of Zieglerville Road. Supervisor Hexter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Sorry, Terry, is your microphone on? So it has to be, so just.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't have the little handheld today, so if your microphone's on, we're not going to pick it up. Thank you. All right. Next item is Public Works request for approval of a John Deere 84-inch bucket quote.
All right, this is a request from the Roadmaster. It's needed for the loader. This would be budgeted under line item 437.260 as it is a replacement. Little's is a CoStar dealer, so we don't have the requirement of getting other quotes unless the board deems it necessary. So this is for a John Deere 84-inch construction bucket from Robert E. Little, Inc.
And what is the cost?
Oh, geez. Sorry. In the amount of,
Oh, here it is, sorry. It's, the total cost is $2,734.98. That includes freight.
thank you.
All right. So can I have a motion to authorize the purchase of a John Deere 84-inch construction bucket from Robert E. Little, Inc., and further authorize the township manager to sign any paperwork to complete the purchase? Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Byrd made the motion. Supervisor Holter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Next item is the Spring Mount Road sidewalk easement approvals. So this is just to accept the easements. We already have them. Peter.
It's a Peter.
And these are temporary easements, correctly?
Yes and no. There are some permanent easements. There are some temporary construction easements. Are these all the easements? I think they are, correct? In fact, I think actually most of them have already been signed. There's only one that still needs to be
I
signed.
thought it was just a temporary one that needed to get signed, from what I read, but I could be wrong.
So will we have to have another vote at our next meeting to accept the final easement?
No, a temporary easement means it's only, we're only going to use it for like
No.
a year or
Right, I
something.
understand that, but are all the easements signed? Yes, okay, great.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I was saying they're all, I think some of them are already signed by Marla, right?
No.
The copies I saw. Were they? Yeah.
Well, what's in the packet is just a temporary construction easement that needs our signature,
So,
unless I'm missing something.
I know some of them were signed because we talked about this at an earlier meeting. I know at least 2 of them have been signed.
yeah, so there's, I believe, 5 easements, 4 of which have been signed, but they're in the packet. The first one is not to be, has not been signed, and that is a temporary easement.
So do we need to have a later vote to accept that final easement?
So the one that's not signed by you, yes, we need a vote for that particular one, but the others, I don't think we do.
You've already signed the walking trail easement. I'm looking at it here.
No, this is for the sidewalk project.
Yeah, well, they're calling it, it's walking trail.
Oh,
It's
they're calling it
the-
a walking trail,
Yeah.
okay.
So
All right.
so the walking trail would be the fire company. It's on this
Right.
side of Spring Mount, so I apologize. That would be the D. Simone's, our neighbor to us, and the fire company.
Those 2 are signed, right?
Yes.
So we just need to sign the easements for what properties tonight?
You just need to authorize the signature of the temporary construction easement between Thomas Eisenhart and Caitlin Drakus, or Drakus, and the township.
So just that one, okay. All right. So the motion would be to accept the easement, the Eisenhart-Drakus easement.
Are we good?
So it's just the one easement tonight? Okay, great, super. Would someone like to make that motion?
So I move to accept the easement for 124 Spring Mount Road for Eisenhart Drakus for the Spring Mount Road Sidewalk Project, and further authorize the chair to sign the easements on behalf of the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
A second.
Supervisor Holter made the motion, Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right.
The engineer's slightly confused.
Yeah.
So we've got easements from D. Simone, Eisenhart Drakus, the fire company, and the cells.
Right.
Have the others been formally accepted at another meeting? Did I miss that?
No, I think what happened is I think the other ones got signed and they shouldn't have gotten signed by Marla and myself.
All right, so what do we need to do?
So
we
that's
wanna go
why
back and-
that was my assumption, that we had not formally blessed all of the easements.
Yeah.
Because there is only, I believe there's only 4. I don't
No,
believe.
we had a vote at a prior meeting that I recall accepting at least 2 easements, and I think those are the 2 I signed.
And it would have been D. Simone and, I thought it was
Those,
the cells.
those 2 easements, I believe, were for the drainage, the Zieglerville's drainage project.
Right. So it looks like in the packet there are a total of 4 easements, 3 of which refer to a walking trail. 1 refers to temporary construction, is what I'm reading. Temporary construction is with the cells, Michael and Tara Cell in Lower Frederick Township.
There would have been temporary construction easements from Cell and from Eisenhart and Drakus. And then there were permanent easements from the fire company and the D. Simone's, and I believe there were also temporary easements from both those parties as well.
Correct. Why don't, So looking at the dates that the property owners signed, they were all signed in April after our April work session. So there definitely was not a previous vote on this. So what I would recommend is a motion be made confirming the chair's signature on these other three easements, and then we're good to go.
Can you state what that resolution should be?
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Does this have to be done tonight?
If we want to move forward with the project, we would like to get the easements recorded. I don't know where we are as to the actual project.
Well, if we want to go out to bid, we need the, if you want to authorize me to start preparing bid packages, we should have the easements in hand.
Okay. Just to make sure that we got everything squared, but if you feel like we got everything squared, I'm good.
Yeah, before they're recorded, I always double check that they are the proper copies, and yeah, I compare it to what I send out to make sure everything's up to snuff and that we're not signing an improper or an old version, or if, one of the property owners made a change to the easement and didn't let us know. I do check.
It's just the number of easements that I'm looking at in my packet does not jive with what I hear you saying, but if you've got a handle on it, I'm fine.
I'm good, yeah, I'm good with it.
So can you please state what the resolution will be?
I would recommend that a motion be made to affirm the authority of the chair to sign the other three easements.
And 4 is the total number, so we've approved one.
We've approved
that's
one, and we're
4
doing the
would be
other three.
total.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Supervisor Hexter made the motion. Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Motion passes unanimously. So can you promise we won't have this on the agenda again?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All right, next item is a Spring Mount Road sidewalk authorization repair bid documents. So
This is an easy one.
this is an easy one. Any discussion? You want to go ahead and make the motion?
I move to authorize the township engineer to prepare the bid documents for the Spring Mount Road sidewalk project.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Supervisor Halter, is it relevant to this?
Yeah, is there a quote on how much it's gonna cost, or not to exceed number for the?
Well, we have the total that we were awarded and the total for the project, which when we put the grant application in, would you like to repeat that, Carol, the total amount that we proposed for this project from Montgomery County? I think it was 233 something, or 287, or? It was like 315 or something?
Did you want to know what the cost of the project was, or do you want to not to exceed for her to do the bid documents?
That's what I thought he was asking.
Okay, all right. Just give us a number. A small one.
I think you did 5 for the last bid document, so do 5 again.
Okay, fine.
Do you want me to redo that?
Go for it.
I move to authorize the township engineer to prepare the bid documents for Spring Mount Road sidewalk project with a not-to-exceed cost of $5,000.
Thank you. And I think I seconded that. All those Supervisor Halter made the motion. Supervisor Hexter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Next one is Spring Mount Road sidewalk authorization for hydro excavation.
So I think that one's on me to explain. So, we've got the necessary easements for the Spring Mount sidewalk project, and that, of course, is being partially funded by a grant from Montgomery County, the 2040 grant, and we'll start preparing bid documents. But here's what this next item is. The closure of Spring Mountain Road is going to impact police, fire, and ambulance, both their access and their response times. So we continue to evaluate ways to minimize the time this road is closed. We're seeking tonight board approval for obtaining accurate location data on the gas and water lines that cross the area of the proposed culvert replacement. So lines on a plan or markings from a PA1 call are all approximations, and they don't inform the exact location, and they don't provide reliable information on the depth of a utility. So accurate information is obtained by doing what's called a soft dig or vacuum excavation. They actually will cut a hole and suck out the dirt, and we can get an accurate depth and location on those utilities. And by doing that, that's going to reduce the unknowns for the project bidding and construction, and would ultimately reduce the amount of time that the road that needs to be fully closed for the project work, because contractor going into it has a better idea of exactly where that gas and water line are. So that's what's on the agenda tonight, is to request authorization to get that hydro excavation done to more accurately locate the utilities.
And just for the public, this is for an amount not to exceed $8,000.
Who's gonna do it?
So we would be looking at a hydro excavation company in combination with probably Sachs from the equipment bid to do the actual cut.
Because somebody's gotta be there.
Yeah, somebody's got to be there to cut and to restore. For the equipment, we'd use the equipment bid for that, and then we're also going to have survey on hand to take the elevations, so,
I just wanted to, because I
Yeah.
know we use them all the time.
yeah.
Do you have somebody specific that you have,
There's 2 or 3 around the area, but they come from all over.
like certified?
They
all-
come from,
Yeah, okay.
they come from the Poconos, they come from Washington DC with the truck.
And we'll probably also need some of your folks under the equipment bid for the traffic control while that's ongoing, so. I actually mentioned it to Matt in a conversation recently, so.
I was
Yeah.
just curious, because somebody has to be there.
No, you are absolutely right, sir.
Looking to rent a vacuum truck. Is that what that is?
That's rent a vacuum truck.
What it is it's, you know, how you have a pressure washer?
Right.
Where you wash your car? It's just like that, and then he has a tube that's this big that he sticks down right
That's-
next to it, and
takes
as
it all
he
out.
hits the ground, it sucks it up and fills it in the truck.
Right, makes sense. And you wouldn't need to do a PA1 call at that point?
We've already done
You
PA1
did
call
them
for this
already?
project,
Okay.
and there would be one done before that work is done. And then that 8,000 would be not only renting the truck, but also the cost for the assistance under the equipment bid and such. So that's the whole soup to nuts. Because I think those hydrovacs are within the range of about 5,000 a day or less.
Any more discussion from the board? Nope. Are we ready to vote? So the motion is, I move to authorize the township engineer to proceed with the hydro excavation for the Spring Mount Road sidewalk project for amount not to exceed $8,000. Do I have a motion?
Chuck Geiser, so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Yiser made the motion. Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item, Cuddy Park authorization for township engineer to prepare cost evaluation, and this is about for the dog park.
So
that
at
correct?
its, yes. So at its April 1st meeting, the Park and Rec Board asked for Carol to give a rough estimate, or asked me to ask Carol, or put in front of the board to, for Carol to give a rough estimate regarding the stormwater drainage around the dog park area within Cuddy Park. The current dog park area does not drain well and gets muddy in the area of the concrete pads. This makes it almost unusable for dog owners for many months of the year.
Carol, do we have an estimate on what this would cost? Ballpark?
So I don't exactly know what the problem is until I go out there with Jason or Becky and take a look at it, but I think if you give me an allowance of a couple of $1,000s, we can find out what the problem is and rough up a solution and some numbers. It wouldn't be a formal plan, of course, but at least get an
This
idea
is the
of what's
first look.
involved. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds fair. Any questions from the board about this?
Yeah, and this is just keeping it within the same footprint of where it's at now? Is that the request?
Yes, so the dog park, I think size, it's not about the size, it's really just drainage and taking care of that drainage. I've been told the stormwater was not done or maybe officially when that was built, so. And I know I was out there in either the beginning of this year or the end of last year, and it was pretty significant. I've had Becky's in the office has had her dog out there, and we've talked about what it's like out there.
Yeah, I mean, that whole part of the township tends to be wet.
Is the board ready to vote to authorize our township engineer to take a look at this? We're going to finish our discussion first. Any other questions from the board? Not anything? Okay, go ahead.
I checked out the dog park, and one of the problems is that there's no grass. That one whole section of that dog park is bare dirt. So, yeah, it's gonna rain on there, and there's gonna be mud, regardless of what anybody does with drainage. If you wanna get the dogs out of the mud, we need to close one section of that at a time and renovate it and plant a turf mixture that's good durable for that kind of use. And you're not gonna get grass to grow there with dogs on it. We have two segments that we're gonna have to rotate apart. To my knowledge, that dog park never had grass planted. That whole segment, when the road crew cleared it, was just covered with a builder's mix, which is annual ryegrass. There never was any kind of turf that would hold up on the dogs. So, if you're gonna do something with that project, it would be good in the fall to do what needs to be done to plant some turf grass.
That's what we're looking for, is what it's going to take to do it.
Sorry, Pam, do you want to make an official comment, or are you just responding to Warren?
No, I'm just saying that, there's a lot of options of what may work there. I think in all of our parks where we've got activities, just plug aeration would help to a certain extent, but I know there's some special turfs that are used in dog parks. The idea of rotation is a possibility, but it's muddy because the grass won't grow because it gets so frequent wet also.
All right, any other discussion from the board? Are we prepared to vote? Someone like to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to authorize our township engineer to prepare a cost evaluation regarding stormwater to present to the board at a future meeting for the dog park area in Cuddy Park.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And we discussed, Carol said it would be a couple $1,000s. So Supervisor Yeiser made the motion, Supervisor Sachs made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. This brings us to the request for the letter to the county regarding the Delphi to Schwenksville Trail connection. We have a draft letter before us. Is a proposal to send, who's representing someone going to represent?
This was
Is that you?
this was a request from the planning commission, as Phil said earlier. So I would, either myself or Phil could represent, if the board has any questions, but as the planning commission had stated, this is to get that ball rolling as far as the official notice that we're interested in doing something to the county that they've been requesting. And then I believe in turn, Schwenksville Borough will do the same if they haven't already.
Has there been any determination about the legal ownership of that piece of trail?
They're working on it. They haven't,
Sorry, can you come to the microphone? I mean, it was my understanding that they had to establish legal ownership, like in many cases, there's documents they can't find. Is this premature?
The last correspondence that I had received from Bill Hartman, the director, the coordinator for that initiative by the county, was they're still working on it. They have some new information that suggested that they do have ownership of that segment of the old railroad bed. And they are awaiting the various townships, or the borough, or the township, to let them know what their interest level is in continuing the conversation. So that said, we're sort of in a position that we're being looked to for some impetus, if you will, to get the thing reestablished as a conversation. They are still, as far as I know, and this goes back probably 2 to 3 weeks, well, probably 3 weeks or more back, that they are still working on determining conclusively. They had, at that time, set a meeting with the people from the Board of Assessment Appeal, and they were working with them to determine whether or not the county would feel comfortable claiming the ownership of that property. So that is as much as I can offer you at this point. But the letter basically suggests that we are expressing an interest in having that meeting and opening the conversation. And I think Schwenksville Borough is looking for us to provide them with a copy of our letter so they can model theirs to the county based on that. But they're willing to take that step.
So is it my understanding that what we have in front of us is a draft?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
The planning commission developed a draft, and as I said previously, if you want to sign it as a letter coming out from the Board of Supervisors, or you want to forward it as a request from the planning commission, I guess it falls on your side of the court.
I mean, would it be stronger coming from the board? I mean, I'm in favor of this project. The only question I have is what kind of, I don't know if this is premature, but what kind of a trail are we looking at? I mean, it's my understanding we're looking at something that is not going to be like the Perkiomen Trail. It's going to be much more modest.
What the county considers a circuit trail that has engineering and standards that would well exceed what we're looking at have.
This is more like just a walking path.
We want a safe, usable walking path that would be able to be accessed by the public. Bring it to the standards that say the Perkiomen Trail, Cross County Trail, and Schuylkill River Trail. That is not what we're looking at happening.
So we
Okay.
could technically take this letter, have Jason put it on, call it a day. That's perfect.
So you mean putting it on letterhead and from the supervisors and signing on behalf of the supervisors?
Yep.
All right.
just ask you a question, Phil, since you're here. The planning commission meeting that I attended in person a month or so ago, I thought John had made it clear that what he wanted to see, or what the county wanted to see from the township and borough, was basically saying, hey, we're interested, we want you to get to the bottom of this ownership issue. And I thought that's what I heard John say, that they were looking to us. Now, maybe this letter serves that purpose, because we're saying that we're interested, but I thought that's what I had heard John say when he, talked about where things stood at the county level. That, they just need a little push to get that effort, continue with that effort and get it done with.
Well, I think the one thing that John failed to mention is the fact that the county is sort of playing coy, if you will. They're saying, well, what is the interest level that the municipalities are expressing about wanting to further this
Right.
You know, we're sort of in a catch-22, and I think this letter addresses that concern, you know, that the ownership issue needs to be the paramount thing established here for this thing to go forward, but then as an immediate second step, it's prudent to, you know, request that a meeting be established. Once that occurs, that would enable this thing to be, you know, seriously discussed and see the viability, whether the viability exists to make it happen.
Yeah, I just don't see anything about ownership in this letter, and I'm
It's,
just,
you know what, it's,
is
I
it
think
there?
it's like, it's kind of mentioned in the last sentence of the first
Yeah.
paragraph. But it's almost like they're saying that they're looking that it's been confirmed, the county's ownership. Maybe it should say something along that.
Maybe something like, we look forward to the confirmation of ownership.
Or will confirm the county's ownership of the former Perkiomen Railroad right-of-way.
I don't think the planning commission has any problem with you interjecting verbiage that, you know, clarifies that particular point. This person might say, I don't see anything that indicates from my research that the county does not own that. They took ownership of the property, you know, in a large acquisition in 1975. They owned essentially, you know, that area, and the court case that was settled by the county versus several plaintiffs that sued the county clearly says that the ownership reverts to the adjoining property owners, which is the county in this case. So I don't know what the obstacle is, but I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not, you know, a county administrator, but, you know, my research indicates conclusively that the county owns that whole road in that location.
What about rewriting that last sentence to
I think
something
so.
like, we look forward to a confirmation of ownership by the Montgomery County of the former Perkiomen Railroad right-of-way, so that this project may be pursued or something like that.
Right.
Would that, something like that be?
Yeah, I think I would just add the word somewhere in there, in the near future. Just to say that, you know, we're not,
something like-
waiting 5 years is not acceptable.
So,
right?
so we look forward to a confirmation,
I think we can wordsmith this
something like
offline.
that. So if we make that change in that last sentence in paragraph 1, would the board,
Yep.
would that be acceptable to the board? Is that a yes? Terry? Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, because we don't, we want something more than just we trust. We want something more firm than that. All right, would someone then like to make the motion? So what I'm hearing is the board is okay sending this letter with a strengthening of that last sentence on letterhead with Jason signing on behalf of the Board of Supervisors.
Because this sounds like they're not sure who owns it yet.
No, they don't. They're still working on it, yeah.
When you look at it and read it, they want to know who owns it.
Yeah, we need to know who owns it.
Maybe that whole last sentence needs to be rewritten, and maybe Phil can work with Jason to firm that up.
Yeah, so basically what we wanted to say is, we look forward to, in the near future, a confirmation that of the county's ownership of the,
We don't have to
et cetera, et
wordsmith it
cetera.
here.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Would someone like to make the motion then to approve sending this letter under the manager's signature on behalf of the board to, and it's going to, is that correct person, Scott France, Executive Director? Okay. Yep, we've got that on the CC line. Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Supervisor Yiser made the motion, Supervisor Holter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, the rest looks pretty easy.
Does this have to be shown the borough first to make sure they okay of what we're writing up? So-
Chris?
It's a letter from the township, not from the borough, so I.
They'll get a
Yeah, but
copy
you're
of it
part
though.
of it. The borough is part of it, right? That's what I'm reading in here.
No, you guys, you'll write the letter, the borough will write a similar letter requesting the same. You don't have to run it by the borough.
Yeah, we'll get a copy of theirs, they'll get a copy of ours.
All right, appointment of Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator, Officer Bacon.
Okay, so Patrick Roberts, who's our emergency management coordinator, asked me to put this in front of the board to change our deputy emergency management coordinator from Tom Gammon V to Officer Bacon. I'm not sure when Tom was appointed, but we have not been doing this as part of our reorg meeting over the last several years. It's good to have a deputy in case Pat can't perform the duties or is out of town if an emergency happened. And Chief has signed off on allowing Officer Bacon to fulfill this role.
Any questions from the board?
Does Tom know that he is the assistant or was?
I hate to make assumptions, but I will let him know that disappointments happen. I'll send something out like we would when someone goes off one of our boards or something, so.
I mean, what if he shows indication he'd like to still remain as the assistant?
It's still at the board's discretion to make the appointment, so you can certainly take that under consideration. You can certainly, if you want me to reach out to Tom.
I think that would be the proper thing to do if he's even aware that he's the assistant. I don't know, but I think just to say that we reassign somebody is a little rough.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yep,
'cause
I
thought
agree.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to mention, I was thinking, is there compensation with this position?
No. It's not what I can say is this is the first municipality where there's been compensation on a month-to-month basis. Usually it's when they're put into action.
Oh,
So,
just an event? Okay.
so we have that in place for Patrick. And so as far as the deputy goes, if we were put into action, but the fact is Officer Bacon is probably going to be on duty.
Well, I'm not questioning it.
No, I'm sorry. I'm answering Noel's question. I'm sorry, Chuck.
You gotta ask him if he wants to do it. Am I correct, Chuck?
Yeah.
Before you say you're just gonna appoint him.
I think so.
Okay.
We gotta have a word from him.
He may just say it's fine, you know.
Okay.
speak to him.
So the consensus is we are going to table this until Tom Gannon V has been contacted to see if he is still interested, and then presumably we'll hear back soon and we can take this up at our next meeting. Either way.
Formal for Ed saying that he is, although I believe he is.
I'm sorry?
Ed is interested, correct?
Well, that I can confirm.
Yes, okay.
Okay, next item is a fire police request from Lower Providence. That should also be simple. So I'm going to read the motion. I move to authorize the use of Lower Frederick Fire Company, Fire Police at 2024 events of Lower Providence Township, June 6 to 15, July 4, and September 28. What is this June? They're having a fair that's lasting 9 days? Okay. All right, and any questions from the board? Are we ready to vote on this?
Can I ask a question? Yeah. I guess this question is for Pam or Greg. Did you also have a fire police request too? Did I remember something from last night, or is that?
We have a fire request, we require fire police for our concerts, most of our events.
But you've already put in those requests.
Well, we put in requests, we were asked, for example, for Springfest, we were asked to put it in writing and do a formal ask through the get anything done by texting and emailing Neil. So Becky
Okay.
sent something in, and they asked for a hard copy memo asking for fire police. So we're reiterating our schedule. We gave them everything up front, but now it looks like we have to do every individual one.
Okay.
It's in a trying situation.
But we've already, no, okay, I think that's all I'm asking. I know it was something, I just didn't want to approve something that conflicted with your stuff.
Do we know if any of these dates conflict with Pam's? Okay.
I know we talked about this before, and I think it's my understanding that it's just rubber stamping it. It's up to the fire police to decide whether or not they can support it. So if it conflicts and they can't make it, they'll just say they can't make it. We're just giving them permission to do it if they're available. All right, so are we ready to vote on this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Someone like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Supervisor Sachs made the motion. Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Last item is a request from the RA Philly
Bike ride.
24. Yeah, we do this every year. So they're going to be utilizing state roads. They'll be on Knifeford Road, Little Road, and Salford Station Road. So they just want us to approve so they can get a PennDOT permit. That's it. And the roads will remain open to traffic during the event. It's a bike ride. Any questions? Nope. We ready to vote on this?
I move to authorize the RA Philly 24 charity bike ride event sponsored by Friedrichs Ataxia Research Alliance, scheduled for Sunday, October 6th, 2024, and further authorize the township manager to send a letter expressing the board's formal approval.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Supervisor Halter made the motion. Supervisor Sachs made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to public comment. Go ahead, Phil. You can take one of ours.
I don't know why that's not working.
Change the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a green light and I'm hearing a reverberance, so I guess I'm on here. At the April general meeting of the Board of Supervisors, I gave a brief informational about the plans that Natural Lands has to change their border markings on the Stonehill Greenway. In the interim, I've talked to Natural Lands and Limerick Township, and both are in agreement that they would like to have a meeting to discuss matters of management, border markings, et cetera, with the other partner, which is Lower Frederick Township. And I guess my request tonight is to seek whether or not the board would be willing to engage with the other partners in the near future and have a meeting to discuss the management and reposting of the borders up at the Stonehill Greenway. It has been posted since 2018. The posting that exists currently, I will agree with Natural Lands, needs to be updated, and but my position is to make it uniform and not confusing to the public is imperative to the success of that greenway. Nat Lands has proposed replacing all their signage with signs of their own, which my opinion is going to be confusing and somewhat problematic to having people understand what the greenway is and to how to realize that it's a unified effort between the municipalities and that nonprofit land preservation organization. So I think to have a forum in which that could be discussed as well as other issues that are relevant to the operations up there is timely, and I think I would like to request that the board support that. And I would also recommend that the board host that meeting here at Lower Frederick Township, since Nat Lands' preserve is here and we own the bulk of the open space, with Limerick Township also having open space there. But since it is mostly housed within Lower Frederick Township, I would think we would have a better, well, it would be better for us to host a meeting here with those parties.
That seems like a good idea. Jason, can you, maybe and Phil, work on that, or whoever the appropriate person would be?
I'd like to suggest, Phil, that if you could provide the original cooperative agreement to Jason, he can disperse it to the board so we can
Certainly,
understand that a little bit better.
Interestingly enough, it's now 24 years old. It was adopted in May of 2000, so it's like anything that goes 24 years, as we've heard earlier. It's time for a refreshing. And I think it was a good agreement, and it has a lot of things that probably will be retained, but I think there are some issues that need to be addressed and, brought up to speed for how we are a growing community and how we need to react to the changes that are existing.
It's a good starting point, but
Yeah.
to help. Yeah.
Is that proposal acceptable to the board?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I reiterate Phil's point. Having spent time looking at things back there, the signage that one is presented with is very different depending upon whether you enter from South Rhineford or whether you enter from Delphi.
Yeah.
And there's lots of conflicting stuff, and there are activities going on in that property that we need to get a handle on and control.
And I think the thing is, having worked many, many decades as a teacher, is you need uniformity and clarity. And people approaching a site like that need to understand in a very simple way how it needs to be treated and respected and that kind of thing. It's not out of control by any means, but I think that it's prudent to make sure that we're consistent among all the partners as to how we're going to present that to the public. And I think the police department, which would probably be called in at some time to enforce matters, would want to have that clarity in place as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? I don't see any on Zoom. Bob, go ahead.
Bob Burns, Edwardville Road. I wanted to bring this up earlier, but because of the way Carol put off the first three things until they came up, it's a little late. But Schwenk Road is scheduled next week for tar and chip. I brought it up several times. I talked to Jason about it the other day. My personal opinion, this township would always make sure that if it's a developer or a single home doing the work, that it would be repaired. So you remember back, the board gave $10,000 worth of asphalt to put down on Schwenk Road. And the agreement was that Schlau, the contractor for Metropolitan, would do that work at the same time at no charge to us. So they put that course down, and since that time, they've run all kinds of machines over it. They've gouged the pavement out. Nobody else would get away with that. So I don't know why we would be getting away with it now. And I don't know why we would be doing anything. The maintenance period, they own that first 4 feet, okay? But they've scratched more than that. So, I guess the way it is right now, you're not going to back charge them. You're just going to go ahead and do it. So I don't know what to say. And then if there was a reason that there is somebody else here, I believe there should be a second podium available or an alternate spot, or use Jason's microphone so that that person doesn't have to move out of the way, because I would have brought it up before he left, but I just figured I'd just wait till the end of the meeting.
Thank you. If there's no more public comment, I'm moving to supervisor comment. we have any supervisor comment tonight?
I'll make it short.
Okay.
I want to thank Phil and Gail Smith for their generous easement donation. I also want to congratulate you on your preservation, which I understand is now done on your property there in South Rhineford Road. And I also want to just let the group know that I was reading in the school district communication against PV Woods that they will be doing an interesting project over at Middle School West, which involves establishing a riparian buffer and planting roughly 100 trees, which I think is a wonderful thing.
Thank you very much, everyone. Meeting's adjourned.